All right, all right, all right, all right, all right. Elevation Nation Conversations. God Body Sean. Hit that like, share, subscribe button. What's going on, YouTube fam? Elevation Nation Tribe. How y'all doing on this Christmas Eve? Look at my eyebrows like The Rock. How you do it? You smell what The Rock is cooking. But how y'all doing on this Christmas Eve? Everybody with their families getting ready for tomorrow, I guess. Ready to open those gifts and spend some time with your people. That's a beautiful thing. I was over here on the internet and I was reading an article about Banking Black, One United, which is a black-owned bank. Let's see if we can go to the article. Let me pull this down. But it's One United Bank is a black-owned bank, and I've heard about them. I heard about them maybe 2-3 years ago, and they got an article, and this is the president right here, sister. Salute that sister. She's doing her thing. But it's talking about One United Bank president TERI Williams talks black-owned banks and closing the racial wealth gap. So I read through the article a little bit. It's not that long, but she's basically talking about how they're pushing for the black community to start banking with MDIs, which is basically a minority deposit institution, a bank, a black bank. And they're talking about how they're black owned and they want to put themselves in positions in the black communities so they can start servicing us with the needs that we have. We have special needs, basically as far as financial literacy, loans, mortgages, and things like that. So she's trying to help close the racial wealth gap by putting more black-owned institutions in the black community so we can bank there. And in turn, they're more, what's the word for it? They're more, I can't think of the word for it, but they're more likely to loan, grant loans for businesses, for homes, personal loans, mortgages and things like that. So they're saying that they did a study and they see that institutions that are minority owned are more likely to lend to those minorities. And I think it's a good idea, but then I also know from having a business and being a business owner, I also know too that it's a little bit of cap. It's a little bit of cap. These banks are businesses. These banks are in the business to make money. They don't just hold money and cash checks and things like that. These banks make money. And if you're not coming up in there with your paperwork together, with your credit together, with your money together, that you have cash on hand, liquid, you're not getting a loan, whether you black, green, purple, white, red. And I have personal experience from this, from being a business owner and banking with a black-owned bank, First Citizens Bank in Atlanta. Not a good experience, but we'll talk a little bit about that a little later. But I do support the idea because the black community, we do need different. We do need different opportunities than other communities. For one, our community comes from a different situation than like the white community or things like that because for so long we were held out of building generational wealth or building any wealth. Coming out of slavery, then Jim Crow, and then segregation, things like that. So we hit a lot of stumbling blocks with trying to get financial literacy, trying to build wealth, hold wealth, pass it down. We're really, way behind in that. When we did start having a little wealth and building our own things and having our own communities like Black Wall Street, things like that, they would come burn the shit down. When they saw we were doing business with our own, building our own, supporting our own, keeping our money within us, and we were building up our own communities. Like in Wilmington, North Carolina, we had bus companies, train companies. The white people come in and they want to crush it all down. They want to take all that because they saw that we were being self-sufficient without them. And then another thing that kind of hurt us as well was the integration movement. civil rights movement. We wanted to be recognized by whites to be equal, so we wanted to start integrating with them. We want to eat at their restaurants. We want to shop at their stores. We want to, be on their athletic teams or go to their universities and things like that. So with us wanting to integrate, a lot of times we stop doing our own thing to go over there to them. With our historically HBCUs, which a lot of those HBCUs were started in, the benefactors were white people to start historically black colleges and universities, but we still needed our own institutions. We had our own sports teams. We had our own banks and businesses and the Freedmen's Bank and things like that. When we were just coming out of slavery, we were still, we were having our own, and we had our own for a while. But I think desegregation kind of slowed our wealth building process down a whole lot because we stopped having our own and we wanted to go over and shop and be with them. So I do think this is an excellent idea with black-owned banks. We need more of those in the community to specifically address the needs of our black community. But I also know too that business is business. If it come down to banking, I'm banking and I'm going to whoever has the best product, the best service, and that's going to give me the best rate and the best loans for my money. Period. But read a little bit about the article and the story what she was talking about. It's a pretty good article, so I suggest you go check it out. But it says among the personal mementos that decorate One United Bank's downtown Boston headquarters, the president, TERI Williams, looks to one with particular pride: her ancestors' manumission papers declaring their freedom from slavery. So she got manumission papers in her office from when her ancestors were freed from slavery. She says, "It's important that we appreciate how far we've come," says Williams, the president and chief operating officer of One United Bank. Williams sees her ancestors' emancipation as a guiding influence in her work with One United, the largest black-owned bank in the country. Since acquiring the bank with her husband in 1995, wow. So her and her husband acquired this bank, off the muscle. So they had their own money to put into it. I wonder where did they get their money from? How did they make their fortune? She says she has steered it through economic ups and downs, the digital age, and racial reckonings that promised new investments in communities. At points, there was turmoil, including criticism in the press over its ties to an ethics investigation into U.S. Representative Maxine Waters, as well as a cutthroat battle to save the St. Charles AME Church after it defaulted on a construction loan. But amid all the history, the bank is aiming to further embed itself in Boston's black community. It will offer a down payment assistance program to help first-time home buyers in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan, and Williams emphasized other critical roles the bank can continue to play as the community and the nation undergo a racial reckoning in the post-2020 era, as the city considers reparations as policymakers explore ways to narrow the region's yawning racial wealth gap. I definitely agree with that. I think some reparations is what will really close that racial wealth gap. We need reparations for what was taken from us, what's owed to us from slavery, from Jim Crow, was holding us back, setting us back, and getting financially free and financially growing. So we definitely need reparations. So I think that's one move, besides banking black as well. But she says the Globe spoke with Williams about her origins in the banking sector, One United services, and the role black-owned banks can play in helping communities address disparities. It says, "Why did you want to acquire the bank?" And she said, "It definitely was a personal calling. I was always in financial services, but I really wanted to do something that was focused on the black community. I wanted to take the knowledge that I had learned from all those different experiences and figure out how it could help us. Growing up, I could never figure out money. I could look around and see that different people had different amounts of money, but I could not figure out why. I don't think anyone should grow up not understanding money. For me, it was a financial literacy passion, and I have been passionate about it ever since. There's been a historic distrust in the black community in banking services. How do you work to rebuild trust? First of all, we're FDIC insured. Your money up to 250,000 is safe no matter what. The second is part of a bigger issue that goes beyond banking. A lot of our community grew up with the saying that the white man's ice is colder, which means that if you have a choice between a white store and a black store, choose the white store because they're going to provide better services. So there's an issue of trust. We've seen huge change in the past 5 years with the Bank Black movement, the Buy Black movement, the Build Black movement. But the reason that that hadn't happened for so long is because of the trust factor. We've been instilled to think that we're less than. I mean, we have 250 years of slavery, Jim Crow, just like I was talking about, Jim Crow, slavery, things like that have held us back. She says we've had 250 years of slavery, Jim Crow, and everything else. So it's not surprising that we don't trust ourselves, but we have to get over it. Part of our trust building is telling our own story. We have a blog article to talk about all of these things that help our community understand that we're actually good with money. That the reason that we don't have money or the reason for the wealth gap is not because of something we did. It's actually because of the history where we were once property. Now, I agree with that totally. It's facts. There's a myth that blacks aren't good with money. That's a damn lie. When we came out of slavery and they gave us nothing, we had to start from the dirt, from the mud, with no bootstraps to pull up. We built our own. We had black communities, we had black bus companies, we had black trains, we had black stores, we had the Freedmen's Bank. So we had our own. So we are good with money. So I agree with her on that part. They ask her, how can black-owned banks help close the racial wealth gap? It says, banking goes where the money is. So opening up a branch in a Wellesley or Brookline where the families have a lot of resources, they have a lot of deposits in the bank, and then they use those deposits to lend to the same community. That's the way banking is supposed to work. But here in Boston, where the net worth for the black community is $8 compared to $250,000 for the white community, you're talking about a community that doesn't have a lot of resources, but yet has a lot of hardworking people that are dedicated to helping their families and their businesses grow. Trying to figure out how to put that puzzle together where we can get the capital that the bank needs in order to serve a community with limited resources is hard work, but we love doing it. She says the FDIC does a study every 5 years about the impact of MDIs, minority depository institutions. From this study, they concluded that black banks in particular are more likely to lend to black borrowers, no matter where they are. So that money that is deposited into the black banks is actually going to the communities that we're intended to serve. To you, it's just deposited money. It's your paycheck or you're paying bills. But in the case of black banks, that money is used to support closing the racial wealth gap in the black community. The last question is, where are black-owned banks heading? She says, the next leg of the journey is artificial intelligence. There is some concern about AI being used in a discriminatory way, but the way we use it is to help us, not hurt us. We're about to introduce a new program that uses AI to look at your bank account and help you make better decisions. We call it Wise One Insights. Let's say a billing company overcharged me. It would alert me. If the program sees that you have some extra money at the end of the month, it'll say, hey, you can move that $50 to your savings account. This moves us from just being a holder of your money to an institution that can actually help you make better financial decisions so that you can build wealth and really reduce your financial stress. Now, that's the end of the article. I suggest you guys go check it out if you want to read more about it. It's a pretty good article. But I think it's a great idea. We definitely need black banking institutions in our community. We definitely need that. But not only do we need the black banks in the community, we need to have financial literacy. A lot of people, including myself in our community, are not really financially literate, and we don't understand how banking and money works and business works. I found out a lot of this over the past 4 years when I had my own businesses. I had an Airbnb, I had a trucking company, I I had a beard oil company. I'm a book author, so I have books, But I learned a lot about this when I was going to the banks trying to get business loans. Um, I had my business accounts in banks where they would see my business is doing 35 to 50, 60,000 a month in transactions with deposits and withdrawals from my trucking company. But at the same time, and I also had money that was on hand liquid, but at the same time, they were not ready to lend to me. And what they were doing is they were predicting and they were seeing the trends in my business and uh, how much money I was having left over at the end of the month, how the industry was going, and they were making predictions, and they weren't approving me for loans. Period. So I agree with banking black, but I also agree with you got to be ready when you're going into any banks. I had a situation where I was living in Atlanta and I was dealing with a black owned bank. It was called First Citizens Bank. This is back in 2016 and 17. I was reading articles about banking black, and you have more of an opportunity to maybe get some loans and some services by dealing with them. So I started dealing with them, and I hate to say it, the service was horrible. I mean, the service was horrible. The products were not what I needed, and I didn't even wind up staying there that long. I would go in there at times I couldn't get to a teller, or it would take forever to get a teller. To speak to a banker, you had to make an appointment, and it was weeks before you can get in there to see a bank, an actual banker to speak about products and services that maybe you qualify for. So it was a bad experience, but that was years ago. So I'm hoping, if thinking that maybe now it's gotten a little bit better or a lot better, and I wouldn't mind trying it again. I'm definitely not against it, but I do support and know that we do need black institutions, not only banks, but universities and our own sports teams and things like that, so that we can start back building internal wealth within our community and within our families. Whether it's wealth from having real estate, you having property and you having homes that you're not selling, or that the parents and people can pass down or pass along, having businesses that are up and running that have the ability to generate income. So we definitely need all those things, and I think a black banking institution would be awesome. It would be excellent. But you do got to go in there ready. You got to have your credit together. You got to have your bank statements in order. You got to have your money together. You got to have your business plan together, and you got to know what you're going in there for. So it's not it's deeper than just having black banks, but you have to know what you're ready for and what you need and what you can do and how you can help them, the bank. Because the bottom line, and I learned this from Banking Black, banks are businesses. Bottom line, banks are businesses and they want to make money. They're in this to make money. They're not just lending to you just because you black or they're in the community or none of that. They're not in the business to take losses. So they want to make money. You got to be ready to handle it. You got to go in there correct, and you got to be able to show that you're worthy of taking on this loan or this money that you're trying to get from them, and you're able to pay it back with a return on their investment, because they're going to charge you interest, and you got to be able to pay that back, and you got to be able to show that you can handle that. That's part of having financial literacy and banking knowledge and knowing what you're doing when you're going into these banks, because they are a business, and they're not just going to loan or lend you money just because you're black and you're banking black. So that's Cap in the story. But I do salute this sister for what she's trying to do, and I definitely support her. Elevation Nation Conversation, hit that like, share, subscribe button, and something we can learn and take from this article. That we can apply to ourselves and elevate with it is, bank black, but also have financial literacy. Understand your money, understand your credit, and go in there at least partially educated or well educated about what the bank can do, what they can't do, and what you're ready for. That way it'll be a win-win for the bank and you yourself. So we can elevate off of that. We can take that with us. We can grow from that. And I salute them. So we out on this one. Elevation Nation, God Body Sean. Hit that like, share, subscribe, and we out. Peace.